The sphenoid bone is the keystone of the skull. This bone, when out of place, then the other cranial bones will then be out of place accordingly. There are 12 cranial nerves throughout the human body. So the cranial nerves are nerves that emerge directly from the brain. These nerves are basically, think of them as root nerves. And these root nerves are essentially main power lines for all sorts of functions, all sorts of sensory functions. For example, you have optic nerve, which has a lot to do with vision, the olfactory nerve, which has to do with scent, etc. Now, the sphenoid bone acts like a railway turntable for the cranial nerves. So whenever this bone is out of place, if it is, say, tilted more towards the right than to the left, then that means the cranial nerves on the right side of the body are going to be impaired in function. However, to compensate that, because the left has so much room, those nerves are going to be overworking so as to compensate. The sphenoid bone can be displaced in many, many different ways. And it's really interesting what happens when it gets displaced in one way over another. We see all sorts of things manifest. We can see stuff in the form of scoliosis, ADHD. Heck, I've even heard of autism simply from the sphenoid bone being out of alignment. So if the sphenoid bone is in alignment, then the 12 cranial nerves should be perfectly functioning and healthy. Now, to correct the position of the sphenoid bone, there are many different methods that you can use. I'm vaguely familiar with manual methods. The only thing about manual methods, though, is you have to exert such an amount of pressure to make an adjustment, but also not too much so as to create any damage. That's why I was instructed to stay away from manual methods for the most part. The safest and most effective method I am currently aware of is microcurrent therapy. So microcurrent therapy is essentially the use of millivolts, and millivolts are literally like 1,000th of a volt, very, very tiny amount of electricity used to tap one of the cranial nerves so as to realign the sphenoid bone. Now, the specific way this works is through tapping the accessory nerve. And the reason we tap the accessory nerve is because, well, oh yeah, that's ironic. It's easily accessible. So to tap the accessory nerve, what I do is I take my device and I turn it on and I apply it to this one point on the side of my neck, what I can best term as the Frankenstein points. Like if you think of Frankenstein's monster, how he's portrayed throughout the movies, right where you would put the bolts, that is exactly where you want to apply the device. So I apply it to, say it's like I start out with my left side, and then after applying it there for about 30 seconds to a minute, then I apply it to the right side, and after doing that, I then do a couple other exercises so as to reset my body, and from there, the sphenoid bone is realigned. So the exercises that I do right after tapping the nerve on both sides, it's what I first start out with is rolling my shoulders forwards and backwards 3 times. And I don't do this in a rush or anything. I just do this, just at my own pace, no rush. And then I twist side to side 3 times. Then I walk back and forth about the room. And after doing that, what has happened is my body's been reset to the extra room now that I have with the cranial nerves on the side that was once tight. Now, how long the adjustment holds really depends on a number of factors. So for example, the best way to find out how long it'll hold is to really look at your health. How much are you in a state of flight or flight mode? When you're in a state of fight or flight mode, you are stressed, and whenever you're in that state continuously, what happens over time is the sphenoid bone tends to be raised on the left side and lowered on the right side. So now to see if the adjustment worked, there is a way to measure the placement of the sphenoid bone. So the most obvious way is through facial symmetry. And the one way we can get a nice, hard, definitive reading on this is by feeling the one point on the skull where we can actually feel the greater wing of the sphenoid bone on both sides coming out. And this point is, so go to put your fingers in your ears. So you don't want to put your fingers in your ears exactly. You want to put them actually right in front of your ears. And I've circled this point. And if you put your fingers right here, you're going to feel there's this sort of indentation where your fingers go in a little bit. And you don't want to angle your fingers up or down. You want to keep them parallel to the floor and lightly lift them up to the top of this indentation so you can get an accurate reading. So stand in front of a mirror doing this and notice where your fingers are placed. Ideally, you want to do this before and after the adjustment. And if you do everything correctly, you should notice a significant difference. Now, I can guarantee for most people, after doing your adjustment for the first time, that the face will line up in that regard, like the left side and right side. Those should equal out from the first treatment, if not improve significantly. Now, what's going to happen over the course of the next couple treatments you do, like over the course of a couple months, is the rest of your body will start to line up. So for example, let's say your shoulders are uneven. So if your sphenoid bone is higher on the left and lower on the right, that most likely means your shoulder on the left is higher than the right shoulder. The right shoulder is actually lower than it should be. And also by that note, the left leg in that case is probably longer than the right leg. So over a couple months doing these adjustments, what will happen is the face will line up instantly, like from day one, for the most part. And then over the next couple months, the rest of the body will line up like this as well. Starting out, you want to do this adjustment at least once a day. Then after a while, the adjustment will hold on its own for days and eventually months on end. However, when you're first starting out, you may find yourself doing it like every couple hours of the waking day. So whenever you're able, like every couple hours, just look in the mirror, do the thing I showed you earlier with the fingers, and see if the sphenoid bone is in alignment. If it's not in alignment, then feel free to do the adjustment. And remember, I use my device on the lowest setting, and doing this adjustment like 6 to 8 times a day is not in any way going to be damaging to the body. Just be sure to use the device on its lowest setting. And remember, guys, these are millivolts, very, very small levels of electricity, nothing that could potentially hurt you or anyone. You shouldn't be able to feel it at all. And don't worry if you can't do the adjustment every couple hours. If for whatever reason your schedule just simply does not permit it, don't worry, just do the adjustment whenever you notice your sphenoid bone is out of alignment, and make that a habit. Alright, so here I am on the Nutritional Frontiers website, Now, this website, this is where I originally purchased my microcurrent treatment device from. And for whatever reason, they don't carry it nowadays. They have since discontinued the product. Strange. I don't know why you discontinued such a good product, but apparently they did. So in that case, we still have a couple other options, a couple other things we can do. The next available option I'm aware of is the Tenant Biomodulator. And yes, I see that price tag. I know, $27.50. It's not many people are going to have the money for that. And strangely, as I was going about this website too, I found their other one, the Pro, which is double the price, and they were actually recommending this one for home use over the cheaper one. And for what reason specifically, I didn't go too far into. But anyways, if you have the money for it and you're gung-ho about it and you want to do that, by all means, go right ahead. Personally, though, it was my holistic dentist who first introduced me to the microcurrent treatments. He told me that the Tenant Biomodulator, that's what he started with, and then he found out the microcurrent device he got from Nutritional Frontiers did the same thing for a fraction of a cost. So since the device from Nutritional Frontiers is out of the question, and the Tenant Biomodulator may be quite expensive for the majority of people watching this, ultimately what you're looking for is a means of microcurrent therapy. That is what you're looking for. And luckily, there are beauty products out there that do just that. So the one I've been looking at lately, it's called the New Face Mini. And this one here goes for $199, which is considerably good, and ultimately, that's what you're looking for is a microcurrent device.